Okay, everyone. Welcome to the Juicecast, episode 8. In today's episode, we'll be talking about Final Fantasy II. So this is quite the gaming experience, and with me today I have King K, who has been on the show before for Sonic 06 and Sonic Adventure 2, and Rockanai, who is new to the show. So you guys can introduce yourselves, starting with Rockanai, since you're new.
Hi, I'm Rekanai. I'm new here, as Juice has said, and I played Final Fantasy II, and it was a video game.
And how about you, King?
Hi. I make videos, I guess. I always hate introducing myself. But...
I won't make you do that anymore then. All right, and then I'm me. I'm Juice. You probably know me if you've heard the podcast before, but if not, this podcast goes into our subjective opinions on the video games that we play here, giving our own analysis and trying to come to terms with, what the game is and see if, we have any common ground in our opinions on that, or... we kind of go into each facet of the game when it comes to development, the gameplay, the story, artwork, etc., etc. So it's pretty fun. We like to go into a lot of detail. So, that is what this show is. And last month we did do Final Fantasy I, which was really interesting. This is my first time playing, the classic Final Fantasies, so I'm just going through them with the Pixel remasters. So I suppose before we get into development and everything else, like that, general reception, we can just go into our personal history with the game. And I'll start off with that, which is that, I guess I just said, this is my first time playing Final Fantasy II. I had heard about it before, I had seen some video game YouTubers do some videos on it in the past, Pro Jared and some others, and pretty much the general reception that I got was that it was the black sheep of the Final Fantasy franchise, and I totally understand why now. The only thing that I remembered about it was that, it has a different level up system than the other ones, along with 8, and so I was like, oh, maybe people just don't like it because it's different or something. And then I played it for myself, and I think it's a lot more than that. But yeah, I guess that's my personal history with it, and I played it on stream, so you can check that out over on YouTube if you'd like. But how about you, King?
Well, I basically had the same experience. I heard it was a black sheep. I kind of prepared myself for the worst, and I guess that made it better, but, not that much, but... I braced myself before going in, so that probably mitigated a lot of it. But I didn't actually... I knew more about this than, 3... for instance, but maybe not as much as the popular ones 7 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you, Rockanai?
So this wasn't my first experience with the game. I had originally played it back on the PlayStation in one of the collections. I can't remember whether it was Anthology or the other one.
The one with 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my first experience with it. I never beat it at that point. This was my first time beating the game. And, it was an experience.
Yeah.
To put it lightly.
Okay. Honestly, I wish... Usually I'm pretty, in tune with the development of the games that I'm talking about. But with this one, I don't know. I'm sure if you know anything about Final Fantasy, or, you've played the games and you have knowledge of the series, then you know that Final Fantasy II didn't release in the US until... the PlayStation versions and the Game Boy version, the Game Boy Advance version. The Final Fantasy II that we got was actually Final Fantasy IV, and the reason they did that is because they were already 3 Final Fantasies over in Japan, and the Super Nintendo was coming out here in the US, so they weren't going to market NES release when they could market Final Fantasy IV as Final Fantasy II, just to, it would take away from the Super Nintendo, and it would just cause confusion, so that's understandable. But I don't really know. I know that, maybe what it is they had so many ideas after Final Fantasy I because it was so successful that they finally, felt the freedom that they could go out and do their own thing again. Because this is a really big departure from the first game. I can only imagine that was kind of on their minds when they were developing this one, but it also seems like it was rushed to a degree. And I don't know that for a fact because I haven't done enough research into it, but it just seems like the game balancing decisions weren't really thought out, which is very different from Final Fantasy 1. But yeah, what do you guys think?
It came out just about a year later, in December of 1988, after Final Fantasy 1. So it definitely was rushed. You can see that in a lot of facets of the game, especially the leveling system. I think is probably the biggest, not well thought out part of this. Because.
I mean, we'll get into it for sure.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but definitely was rushed.
Do you know anything about the development of this one, King?
No. All I know is the Ultima story, which I'm not even sure is real anymore after reading my comments.
The Ultima story.
Have you heard of that? Where like one of the coders made Ultima bad on purpose because he was like, I can't even remember why. It was like he made it bad on purpose because he was like, I don't know the full story. You'd have to look it up.
I guess that kind of sounds really selfish in a way, though, because that's like the whole. I mean, that whole section of the game is like Minwu or whatever his name is sacrifices himself to open up the path to get Ultima, only for me to use it literally twice. Because it was
the thing is, I don't like. I've been told by people that it's not real, but I've also been told by other people that it is real. So I'm in like, there are articles about it. Yeah. So I'm like, I guess there's. I don't know if it's a rumor or like I don't get it.
That's interesting.
It wouldn't surprise me all that much, considering how it's not all that great of a spell as they claim it to be.
Yeah.
But
I mean, is it a good spell if you level it up? Because, like, how I was picturing it was like, oh, this has to be worth it for me to, for the whole game to be building this up. Like, I'm not going to have to level this to my other spells in order for it to be effective, right? And then it's like, oh, this is doing 26 damage. Why is this? You know what I mean? It's so late into the game that it's like, this is...
From what I've heard, it doesn't even matter. If you, like, max it, it'll, like, do a little more damage than, like, a...
Oh my god.
I forget what the high-level spell in that game is, but it's really not... From what I've been told, it's basically never worth leveling up because it takes forever.
That sucks, because, like, Final Fantasy 1 does the thing where you get Flare, and that's a legitimately, like, really good spell late in the game. So, okay, well, that's interesting to know. General reception, I'm not sure how the game was received when it came out, but I know, obviously, now, not received very well for various reasons. I don't think I've heard like a really good review of this game. Yeah, I don't know what you guys have seen and experienced to that.
I've mostly seen negative reviews of it, honestly.
Yeah, that's been my whole experience.
There are very few people I know who love it. I'm sure they exist.
Yeah. I'm sure it has like a diehard community. I'm sure there are also some mods. I never really looked into ROM hacks of the game to see if they fixed some stuff about it. I'm sure that they exist and whatnot. But at the base game itself, no, I haven't really heard any good things about it. Even when I was watching other people playing it during my playthrough, just to see what other people were thinking about it as well, it was never really anything positive, unfortunately. Okay. So, moving on, we know the general, reception is that the game isn't that great. Let's talk about why that might be, and going into the gameplay. So, I guess I'll start off with this, because I honestly, when you start off, you get your ass kicked, like, right off the bat by the 4 soldiers, because, I mean, the story says, they're trying to join the fight against the... I don't know if it's the rebellion, fight against the rebellion, or join the rebels. No, the rebels are the bad guys, right? Do we remember?
No, the rebels are... You're the rebels. We are the rebels.
Okay, so the rebel... Okay, yeah, so we wanted to join the rebels to go against the Empire. That's what it is. And so we try going out there, we get our asses kicked, then we get back. And I thought the gameplay was going to be really cool, because you start off in that tutorial room, and they explain all this stuff to you, and I was like, in my head, I was like, wow, this has the potential to be like really, really cool. Having like skill ups and stuff like that is essentially what it is. And it was a lot to keep track of, and I was like, okay, this could be interesting, and this could be fun. I like this. And then how it plays out is not very fun for me because, well, I don't know. Well, first of all, let's say it's a huge departure from the first one, because in the first one you get to select your jobs. So we'll start with that. In this one, you don't really get to do that, but it's almost like it doesn't matter because all of the characters can be anything anyway, right? It's almost...
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I kind of, like... I can't remember the character names other than Guy. But
Guy Speak Beaver.
Yeah, Guy Speak Beaver is probably my favorite part of the game. But I made the yeah, go ahead.
So your three main characters, Hylian, Maria, and Guy. Hylian being essentially the main character.
Yeah.
Maria being the brother of one of Hylian's friends, and Guy being another friend along the way. There is also a fourth character, Leon, but he does not really join you until the very end of the game, after being separated from you in the very beginning of the game.
I hate him so much. The way they handle him really pisses me off.
Yeah.
I think the entirety of how they handle the fourth character slot is awful in this game.
So much death. Everyone dies.
Everyone dies. And everyone starts at such a low level comparative to you when you get them. Yeah. Except for Minwoo in the very beginning.
Yeah, Minwoo has like all maxed out spells as a white mage.
Yeah, just to start. But like Joseph, Gordon, Layla, they all start with like 200 health.
Yeah.
Barely any like attack power.
Leon spent like half of the time I had him dead on the floor.
Yep, same. I just gave him a lance. It was like, all right, go nuts, bro. Oh, you're dead. All right, no one cares.
Yeah, so I just made Maria the white mage because I was just like, I was picturing that they had base stats, and based off of like traditional Final Fantasy, I was like, well, this is probably a white mage, so I'll make her a white mage. Guy, I gave him double axes. At first, it was an axe and a sword because I wanted to level up both skills just in case like you got more of one weapon in the end. And then Farron, I gave swords. And I had him have a sword and a shield for a lot of the game, but when I realized that it didn't really matter and it was better to just like output as much damage as possible, I kind of just stuck with that. I spent a lot of time building up my spells in battles, but it was so hard to keep all the rules in mind because everything, all of your stats and all of your skills for every single spell and weapon level up separately. And the one that confused me the most was the defense and HP ups, because I'm pretty sure you don't actually increase your defense if you get healed or something. Is that what it is? Like if you get attacked, your defense has a chance to increase, but if you heal in the same battle, it doesn't.
I'm not sure about that as far as that goes, but
I would not be surprised, is all I'll say.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure leveling up your skill points in general, even if you use them, is still RNG based, on top of the fact that you use them.
Yeah, I mean, it's more beneficial to have one enemy on the field than just constantly attack your own team.
Yeah,
to raise up your levels.
Yeah, I tried my best not. I tried my best not to do that because I knew that existed, and I wanted it to be as like intended playthrough as possible. You know what I mean? So I avoided.
Oh, come on! You don't want to beat up Guy just for fun?
No, I don't. I think I tried it for like a little bit, and I was like, "This is boring." Anyway, yeah. No, I mean, I don't really know. I think the big thing is with the gameplay, at least in like the skill point system, is that it takes a ridiculous amount of grinding to get your spells to be at a point where they are like useful. And the game tries to throw in like 70,000 random encounters at you while you're going through the game to level up said skill points. but that's such like an ass backwards way of doing it, in my opinion, because it's just so unfun and grindy. I mean, I don't know. Also, the fact that they don't give you many like good weapons for the other types as you continue on in the game is also really weird. Like, let's say you spend a lot of time leveling up your the staff or whatever it is. Why would you ever attack with that thing? I have no idea. And also, you don't really get any great staff weapons at the end. If you have a healer, just put them in the back row, and if they really need to attack, use their spells or use the bow. The sword is the best weapon that you can get. The sword and the axe, I'm pretty sure, because they consistently have like better options for you as you go forward. I don't know. I've been talking for a while. Why doesn't someone else can take over with their experience? I'm very scattered right now. There's so much to talk about with it.
All right, well, why don't we just focus on magic and stuff, and skill upgrades for now then, because it's pretty bad. I mean, if you for me, I had to choose a specific weapon for a character and stick with that for the entirety of the game.
Yeah.
Because every time I picked up a new weapon, if it was a different type, if my skills weren't as high as, let's say I picked up a dagger and it was skill level 1, and I had previously had swords that were skill level 8. Yeah. Even if the dagger had, better attack damage, it wasn't going to do as much because I wasn't as skilled with it.
Yeah.
So I had to grind continuously to get that up. So at that point, I just stuck with swords on Furion. Maria, she had a bow, she was in the back line, and she did all my magic. I had Guy with 2 axes, and then whatever the random 4th character was doing for that.
Yeah, whatever extra equipment you had to make them as strong as possible. Yeah. How about you, King?
I think it's weird because I wouldn't even say I grinded intentionally. It's just the random encounter rate was so high that it just kind of happened while I was progressing anyway.
Yeah.
I got in so many fights that I may as well have been grinding.
Exactly.
But I basically was from the beginning, because I had heard about this system, so I kind of had some forethought. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make damn sure each character has a different thing, so that I cover all my bases, and that worked out pretty well for most of the game. I tried to level Ultima, but I gave up, and I just started using Flare or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried to split my magic up between a few characters. I gave Furion a few offensive magic spells as well, just in case. Because as the game starts off, it seems like ethers and elixirs are the elixir was 50,000 gil or something, at least in the Pixel remaster, and I was like, that's absurd. How am I gonna get magic back in these dungeons and stuff? So I tried to spread out the magic and level it up at least a little bit. Having cure on a couple of characters doesn't hurt. But later in the game, you have so much gil anyway. It was the same thing that happened in Final Fantasy 1, where it's you can stock up on as much stuff as you want because you're never going to be spending this gil on anything that's that crazy. But until I got to that point, it was kind of tedious in that way. Because one thing I noticed is a lot of the random encounters required certain elemental spells to beat them. Otherwise, it would do 0 damage or miss or whatever. Like those slime things, the different colored slimes. One is only weak to fire, one's only weak to thunder, one's only weak to ice. So that was really annoying.
By the way, that's real fun with the random encounter rate when you're in those dungeons. You're it's Simon Says for the 25th time in a row.
Although
you get a fucking marble or whatever after and just die instantly. That's
oh my god.
So I have to complain about this because the ambush for Marlboros insta kills you.
Yeah, that happened to me
because they stun all of you,
and
then they just continue stunning all of you.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there all right, I guess I just gotta wait for the encounter to be over to load my quick save.
Yeah.
Whoever decided that you could be re-stunned while stunned is
Satan.
They are
Did you not think about the implications of this? This could go horribly wrong.
Yeah. It essentially, you just literally have to sit there and wait. You have no chance if you get ambushed. Even sometimes when you don't get ambushed, I mean, You could try to run away, which is nice because the runaway system in this game is at least a lot better than Final Fantasy One's. If you you can run away consistently in this game, which I like. For a while, I wasn't even doing it because I was like, if Final Fantasy One tells me anything, then you're not going to be successful running away like most of the time. But then I realized that I can just like thankfully have auto on and run away, and I started doing that like maybe 75% in the game. So that's cool. But yeah, you know what I heard actually, speaking of like the status ailments, because there's a couple other enemies that insta-killed me multiple times. Even with ribbons on and stuff. Those
like the fucking curls or whatever.
Yeah, the cat things.
Insta-kill on hit, yeah.
Yeah, that's supposedly a bug. That's not supposed to happen, even in the Pixel Remaster. At least that's what I heard.
Actually, yeah, I think I got some comments about that now that I remember.
Yeah, so that sucked. I remember specifically there was a fight that even in Pandemonium it happened. It like multiple times. So I kept like
it happened a lot in Pandemonium.
Yeah. So I kept saving like every few steps just in case I didn't like auto die because I can't. What are you supposed to do? But it also happened to me in the dungeon before then. I remember specifically like you open a chest and I was like, oh, this must be some good loot in here. And then you run into like 5 of those cats and a queen, whatever it's called. I can't remember the monster.
Queen Lamia?
Yeah, the Queen Lamia that also like confuses your party members at the same time. Eventually I got through it, but man, that was a tough fight. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. This can't be right. Because even when you have the equipment on that like prevents you getting insta death, you still die to that. Like that can't be right. So it kind of makes sense that it's a bug now. But yeah, I kind of did the same thing as you, Rock, and I. Like, as I started out, I gave the characters multiple things. But as I went on, I was like, I'm going to make them single specialties because otherwise there's no point. Though you say that like when you got the new weapon, it leveled up, or like there was like almost no point in using it. But I remember like the main character, I can't remember his name again. Do you remember?
Furion.
Yeah, Furion. Mm-hmm. Like I started using a dagger like halfway through, or maybe when they were at like level 10 or something like that. And it leveled up to level 10 really, really fast when I started using it. So, maybe that's just because the amount of random encounters that I was getting into, but at the same time, it leveled up like, it almost like tried to match what the sword skill level was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I found that to be interesting. But at the end of the day, I just stuck with swords and gave a guy double axes as well. The poison axes were really sick because they would do continuous damage over time.
Those helped a lot.
But overall, it just seems like a system. And I think they like flesh it out in the Saga series, like later on. I'm pretty sure that's what they did with this system. The system that had potential and that I was really excited about, but there are so many details that are skewed, things that you can't remember, things that the game like never reminds you about, or some things that are just like not thought out, like the fact that some of the skill points for the weapons are almost completely useless because you would never use them, or you just don't get equal amount of weapons for one skill than the other one. So I think it should have been reduced to maybe like a few different things. And I also don't think that you have to like, I don't think you should have to level up every single spell like the way that they did. I mean, it's ridiculous.
So as far as the spells go, I have a problem, especially with Esuna and Basuna.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, okay. One's for in battles ailments, one is for out of battle ailments that persist. And I'm like, why bother?
Yeah.
Just combine them like they do later in the series, but like, think about it. That's just another skill you have to like continuously use and level up.
Yeah.
Also, if your spell level isn't high enough, it's not going to cure certain things.
Yeah.
Which is
a
kind of a problem.
Especially Basuna was.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I started using them a lot outside of battle. Like, I would never use the items. I would always use the spells just to make sure they're at least both at, like, level 6 or 7. so that they can cure that kind of stuff. Because when it wasn't, it was just like, this is kind of useless, you know. And the thing is like you can't use them unless they have those status ailments in the first place. So it's like almost like you have to get into more encounters to be able to level them up in the first place, which is kind of counterproductive, because why would you want to purposefully have your party hindered? Wasn't a big fan. Do we want to move on to dungeon design before we go into overworld exploration? Or
absolutely. Because
That's my favorite part.
This is the worst thing
absolutely
I've ever
the best.
played.
I love walking into rooms and having absolutely nothing in them 90% of the time. It is the best thing ever.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
you know, it's funny because in Final Fantasy 1, I've checked everything, and it was great. In Final Fantasy 2, I almost did. I got, like, to the end game dungeons, and I stopped. Like, I couldn't do it anymore. I had to just do I couldn't find all the chests anymore. It was too much. I couldn't handle it.
I had
Show me the right way to get through. At this point, I'm done.
And imagine not having a map. We all played the Pixel Remaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Oh my gosh.
I imagine it was hell back
Because
in
there
the
are so
original.
many paths that don't lead to anything. Not even just like the empty rooms, but literally nothing. It's like the dungeons are meticulously designed by Satan himself to just make sure that you waste as much time as possible in them. I swear. I don't know.
Well, yeah, they're designed to give you more encounters so you can level up those abilities that take forever.
Yeah. Man, I was getting so frustrated because I had the same experience as you, King, where it's like in Final Fantasy 1, the game does a really, really good job at incentivizing exploration because you need to have a lot of gil for literally things that happen in the story to get new weapons, and also because you needed items in the dungeons to progress through the game and the dungeons themselves. Final Fantasy 2 has nothing like that. You are so discouraged from exploration because of the fact that 90% of the rooms that you go into literally have nothing in them. Oh, and here's a little tidbit for you. In other ports, you start, you know how in the Pixel Remasters you start close to the door but not toward the middle of the room?
Yeah.
In the other ports, you're in the middle of the room, and the random encounter rate is even higher, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so you'll get 2 encounters on the way out.
As if it needed to be higher.
Yeah.
As if it could even go any higher than it already is.
Yeah. Because I would get into a random encounter even in those 4 steps a lot of the time.
Well, yeah, and those other ones it's just 2 steps. So.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But you would be even higher in the room, so you'd get 2 or 3 on the way out, which is insane.
No thanks.
Yeah.
I'll pass.
So when you have a map, you can at least know where all of those doors are and know where the right path to get to those doors are to go into the empty rooms or to progress further in the dungeon. But if you weren't playing with a map, then you would not have that luxury, and you would get into even more random encounters. It's got to add another 5 hours or something on top of the Pixel Remaster playtime, because you also didn't have a speed up function. I don't know. I said this with the Final Fantasy 1 Pixel Remaster 2, but the fact that the ports of games like 7, 8, and 9 have even accessibility options like turn random encounters off is just would have gone miles in these Pixel Remasters, because there comes a point where there really is no point. You can play with them on or off if you want to experience the game authentically or what have you, because if you're leveled up enough, I don't know. You know what I mean?
If you're leveled up enough, the only thing that's going to stop you is one of those ambush encounters that's designed to immediately kill you. Mm-hmm. Nothing else will touch you at that point.
Exactly. So it's just really, really annoying. And I don't know why they didn't think about well, maybe they did think about the accessibility options, but in general, it almost seems like the Pixel Remasters are kind of botched in ways that, bother me. One, I know that it's a small detail, but the font really bothers me, the narrow Arial font. It's it just seems so out of place to the point
it
where
doesn't fit like a pixel game.
Yeah. So I actually modded the Final Fantasy VI font into the game, which is really easy because you just replaced a couple of font files. But that's the only mod I did to the game, just because I don't know. I would see. I was like, I don't know. I don't even know why they did that, because it's kind of hard to read a little bit. It just seems out of place to me. Because I know they're out. Pixel Remasters are out on mobile too, right?
Think so?
Yeah. So maybe that's what it is. Because I don't know. It seems like they haven't gotten their fonts right in quite a while. Like with all of the ports of the Square Enix games, like the classics and Chrono Trigger and stuff. I just don't really understand the mindset behind it. But thankfully, we have modding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's like literally 10% of the time you would go into one of these rooms and get treasure chests, and what you would get in the treasure chest was actually worth the 6 random encounters you get on the way to that room and on the way out.
They were never worth it.
Yeah.
You usually got like a potion.
Oh
an
my
ether.
god, when you got like a potion, I was like, you can't be serious.
Yeah, and they were in later dungeons too. It's like, I'm way past potions at this point, man. I need high potions, I need max potions, I need elixirs.
Elixirs, yeah. If you get an elixir, it actually felt really good because, it's 50,000 gil, so if you get lucky, you get one of those, and that's cool. But it's like never worth the amount of time that it takes to get it anyway. So like we said, I kind of just learned as we went like further into the game and just said, forget it. I'm just going to wherever I need to go. Unfortunately, you still don't necessarily know the path that you need to go on in the dungeons sometimes, because you'll have multiple doors and only one of them will lead to the right place. And on a first-time playthrough, you're not going to know what that is. There's no indicator that the right thing is the right thing. It's just there to waste your time. They're very labyrinthian to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
What was your least favorite dungeon?
Least favorite?
Pandemonium.
I didn't mind Pandemonium that much. I think my least favorite was, I think the Dreadnought, honestly.
Is that...
Dreadnought was awful, too.
Is that the one you fall into?
No, it's the ship that you infiltrate to save the princess.
Yeah.
Well,
what they don't tell you is
the princess.
Yeah.
What they don't tell you about the Dreadnought is if once you enter, they're like, haha, you can't get out of here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I went in, I was like, I'm going to scope this place out, and I quickly realized, I was like, I should probably leave and go get some items. And they're just like, nah, you're fine. And I'm like, okay. I'm surprised I got through that dungeon, honestly.
The reason I hate that dungeon is mainly because of the first room. There is a stairway that goes down into like a little area. When you come back up, there's 3 guards there.
Oh, yeah.
They don't typically move right away. So I thought I had to fight them. I'd fight them, and they'd still be standing there, and I'd be like, okay. And
So,
I wasted so many potions and stuff just trying to get through that, only to just wait there and have the guy move out of the way slowly. It was
you have to like wait a few, 5 seconds or something, but for some reason they still let you battle them. That is so
it's
asinine.
absolutely a trap, and like I hate it with a passion.
Yeah, I mean, like, the reason I say Pandemonium is less about the dungeon. I actually love the music in that dungeon a lot. But it's more so that I think FF2 is a game that gets worse the more you play it, and that was the point where I did not want to play anymore. Like,
wow, yeah.
I was like close to giving up. I was like, I know I'm at the end, but it's just making me angry. Probably other than that, that stone dungeon with all the marbles in it, that's a contender as well.
Oh wait, the one on the island?
Called. Yeah,
you get the black
that
mask.
Place pissed me off too. There are a lot of them. It's hard to pick.
Yeah, I don't think I liked a single dungeon. I think the one I liked most was Pandemonium, and it was only because of the atmosphere. Even though I would die every 2 seconds to the bugged cat things.
I was kind of having fun in the early game a little bit, like a few of the dungeons.
Yeah, the amount of dungeons that they throw at you is actually insane. Like, especially like midway through the game, I was hoping for it to be like more exploration, like Final Fantasy 1, Like, playing this
Yeah.
game just makes me really like Final Fantasy 1. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me go back.
yeah, I don't know. It was like one dungeon after another, all the time. There was never really a break that I can think of. It was slower pace in the beginning, but like halfway through the game, it was bam, 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 bam. It was
Like,
just
all right, go
constant.
here, find this Dragoon guy. Oh, he's not here. All right, help
Yeah.
get the egg. All right, bring it here. All right, go back to town. Oh, hey, guess we're attacking the castle now. All right, we've done that. All right, go get Ultima. It was At that point, it was just nonstop. It was like, all right, we gotta
Getting
push this
Ultima
along.
is like the weirdest part of that story to me. Well, not the weirdest. It's the weirdest pacing wise, I think, because it's like, why is this Like, why? Like, because it just feels like things are really ramping up, and they're like, okay, we're gonna need you to go get Ultima now, and also get swallowed by Leviathan, and also, like, it's just why?
Yeah.
It
feels
felt
really
real
padded
sped
up.
for no reason because you had
Yeah.
just like defeated the Empire. You had forced them back out of the castle that they had taken over in the beginning of the game. It should have slowed down for a little bit there, but no.
Yeah.
That was like, all right, urgency. We got to get this so we could go do whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, it didn't work in that case.
Yeah.
Also, like in terms of the overworld, there were a lot of just empty spaces that were not utilized.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. It's quite the difference between Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 2 in that respect. Also, I wasn't expecting to like go slightly the wrong way on the map by like a couple tiles and then get 100% obliterated by enemies. I remember like when I started off, I went to the left. I was like, oh, I'll explore or whatever. Go to the left a little bit. You have 0 chance at survival. I was like, I guess that's the game's way of telling me not to go that way. I'll go up instead, and that was where I had to go. But I just found that to be really weird.
Yeah.
That same exact thing happened to me. Like that was probably my second or third encounter. I was like, all right, this is easy. Let's just keep going left. Let's oh, I'm dead. Oh.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
run away. Oh no. I haven't saved yet.
Yeah. Like, I can't tell if that's like a good or bad thing because at least we have like the auto saves in the game now,
Yeah.
but as it was originally, because it's not that much of a punishment to die now.
Yeah.
But back then, yeah, it definitely would have been, and because I like games that let you challenge things that you wouldn't normally be able to do. Like I've talked about this when it comes to like, even the newest Pokemon game, Sword and Shield. Like I like the fact that you can encounter higher level Pokemon in the wild area and stuff like that, and because it just
I
gives me a
love shit like
challenge.
that too,
yeah.
yeah.
Or like in Breath of the Wild, same thing. You have the chance to fight all these things that you might not be quote unquote ready for, but you can outskill it. In this sense, you can't do that really. That in my knowledge, unless you were to like really take advantage of the system, I guess. Like maybe there is some weird speedrunning strat that I don't know where, because of the fact that you can damage your own party members over and over again to up their stats, I guess you could do that and then go into a place you're not supposed to be in, quote unquote.
Well, the thing about that though is that like there aren't. How many actual opportunities does it give you to even try that? Because it feels like a very linear game for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think you can
So
really
I don't
do
know.
it until the end of the game where it's like
Yeah.
where that's when you can actually explore things, but at that point it doesn't matter because there's nothing new for you to see. Everything's already been taken, everything's already been explored. But I just mean like when specifically when the game like starts and you start traveling, it's like, yeah, you can go to the left or you can go up, and up is where you're supposed to go, I guess. But if you go even just like slightly to the left, then you just die, and that's just like very strange to me. Because I like linear games as well. Like I'm not like all open world or whatever, like or whatever. But I do like having. I don't know. I like a mix of both, I guess. And this game just it almost has the illusion of being open world because of the fact that you have an overworld and stuff like that, but you can't really do anything without dying unless you're going straight to where you need to get to. Except for one area that I will say, and it's when you get the boat. When you get the boat, you are supposed to be working to get the 2 masks or whatever, and the game points you in the direction to get the white mask first. But my instinct was to explore with the boat, and I was like, oh, cool, look at this island down here. And I did that first. I did the same thing. Yeah, yep. So I got the black mask first.
I think actually getting the black mask first was, given the design of the difficulty in this game, probably not a good idea. But I did it anyway.
Yeah, maybe not. But it was like the only thing that made me feel like I had agency.
Yeah, same. That's why I did it.
Yeah. So I went to go do that, and that's the one where the lower you go, you have more Marlboros, I'm pretty sure, too.
Yeah, it's great.
Like,
it's really awesome.
Jungle underground biome.
Really awesome when you get ambushed, too. Like, I hate ambushes so much.
Yeah, for real. Very
Every time it happens, it's like, well, there's a 50-50 chance I'm just going to die, so...
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what happens, I guess.
Awesome design. Yeah, I think I went in there and I went to the top floor first. I don't remember the creatures that were in there. The beavers weren't there, right? It was earlier in the game.
Yeah, beavers were.
The beavers are in like
ice
the
area.
Ice place, right? Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I remember there being another species up there. I can't remember what it was, and they told me, "Oh, the mask is on the bottom floor. You'll never get it." Ha ha ha! And I'm like, "Oh man, you got to be kidding me!" I thought I was going the right way. Then I, travel all the way down there, of course, to get all of that stuff. That was the only time, like we said, that the game really gave you agency to do something different. So yeah, there's the dungeons and the overworld exploration. Though, I guess another thing with the overworld exploration is maybe we should talk about the keyword system, and I guess this kind of plays into the story.
Yeah.
This had the potential to be cool if they flushed it out some more, like if you were to talk to other NPCs and they didn't just give you a fucking question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I love the idea of it, but when I ask some random person in town about the dreadnought, and they're like, what the heck's a dreadnought? And I'm like, have you not been paying attention to the world around you? At all?
Because
it's like every time you get one of those prompts, I was just kind of like, okay, time to cycle through every single response and see if something happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also like when you finally find the right person to talk to about the keywords or whatever, then like it makes a little chime or whatever, and then you have to go through like 3 different menus just to like get more information about that thing in the first place. It's like, if you took this out, nothing would change. 0 things would change. It would just take less time and be the same.
A few times it was like I didn't know who I needed to talk to, and I finally found the person, and I'd be like, "Why is it this person I needed to talk to? Like, why couldn't I have not talked to anybody else about this?"
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my god, that really, I hated that because you just don't know what to do a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Or there were a lot of times where you had to talk to Scott or Sid, and I just wouldn't know. It's like, oh, I gotta go 3 towns over to talk to this guy about this one thing that he possibly might know about. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's also because as hard as this story tries, a lot of these characters you need to talk to are just not very memorable. So it's kind of like...
Yeah.
You just forget they exist sometimes, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy. Maybe I should go talk to him.
Because they don't do anything besides give you information. That's it.
Yeah.
And die.
And die.
Yeah. I mean, die very frequently.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Joseph.
To the point where it just kind of becomes numb.
Yeah.
At a certain point.
Yeah.
Just stop caring.
Mm-hmm. I do like the death music, though. The first time I heard it, I was like, oh, it's pretty cool. Pretty sad and stuff. I remember one time, though, I went into... I can't remember. It's like at the end of the game where you go into the... You have to talk to someone. I can't remember who it is, because why would I? But you go into the house and you talk to the guy in the top left, and he's like, go check on the person who's laying in the bed. Oh, it was after he got injured from an airstrike, because the Emperor like went through and like bombed every town after.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you talk to him, and the sad music plays because he dies. And then you, like, go over to the room on the right to get the chest, and then the sad music stops playing. And it goes back to, like, the happy town music or whatever. And I found that to be such... so weird, like, so dissonant cognitively, because why wouldn't you just have the sad music keep playing throughout this event? It's like, oh, you hear it for 2 seconds, and then you just, leave. It's like, it didn't matter that much.
It's like... How cool, this guy's dead. Oh, so... Oh, hey, look, loot.
yeah, exactly. You talk to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, go get the treasure over there on the right side of the building." I was like, "Okay." Speaking of which, that blood sword is ridiculous.
The most broken thing in the game, and I love it.
I know you told me that it was broken when I was streaming at Rock and I, but I wanted to make a point to not use it first because I wanted the final boss to. It's like I went all this way, I grinded through this game. You know, it was hell. I want to beat this boss like fair and square. Blah blah blah. And you know what? It was a pretty good final boss, I guess. But then, just to get my frustration out, after I beat the game, I did it on stream. I was like, I'm gonna try the blood sword and just see how overpowered it is. And yeah, it beats the final boss in 2 hits. 2 hits.
I'm gonna be honest with you because I brought the blood sword just because I had it equipped. I didn't even know it would do more damage to the final boss. I just had it on in Pandemonium.
Yeah.
And I was like, it did so much damage, and I was dying so frequently that I was like, if I had not equipped this, I don't think I could have beaten the game at this point. Honest to God, where my levels were.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I at the end of the game, I was like so overpowered because I didn't run from a single battle.
Oh, really?
I just like put auto battle on attack and just went through. And at the end of the game, like I had heard that this blood sword was broken, and I was like, all right, I just want this over with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in like 2 cycles, he was gone. I was like, thank God, it's over.
I wanted to see how broken it was because, like, yeah, you don't really have to go out of your way to get it because you have to talk to the person anyway in that house, and he's like, go check out the loot over there. So you're likely gonna get it, but a lot of people might not equip it because it has like 0 attack. So you know,
I mean, some might for the lifesteal function, but it doesn't like indicate at all that it would do extra damage to bosses and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the life heal function isn't like as good as just using like cure whatever with your white mage at the same time. So it's whatever. Like I got way more out of just equipping a higher attack sword than I would ever have done with the blood sword. Because it gives you like higher attack sword, so I just dual wielded them and stuff just to get that attack like over 200 or whatever. But yeah, then going into it, I think that's crazy that they made it so you beat. There shouldn't have been something that lets you beat the final boss in that amount of time.
I want to say it was originally a glitch, that it was a bug. It wasn't supposed to do
you
that.
You think so? I don't know. With the developers of this game seem pretty trolly with the Ultima spell story.
I think it's like a toss-up, honestly.
The ultimate spell is not the ultimate power in the world. It's just this sword made of blood. Congratulations.
I guess so.
I don't know. It doesn't make much sense to me other than it having to be a bug. So.
Okay. Let's see. How is this changed for Final Fantasy 1, and was anything from this game used in future titles? As far as the gameplay go, can you think of anything? Because like when I think of,
I mean, the biggest changes are the level up system, really.
Yeah, and I don't think that's. I mean, Final Fantasy 8 has something where you have to steal magic from the enemies, right? To use magic, but that's not the same.
Yeah, no, that's definitely different. I mean, I don't think it's been used in any other titles. It might have been used in one of the offshoots.
Yeah, because I think it was developed like further in the Saga series. The only thing that I can really think that this game kind of did, which is different from like classic Final Fantasy, or people normally think of as classic Final Fantasy, is instead of having like a set job system like Final Fantasy 1, 3, 5, etc., is that like it's almost like any character can be anything, which is like what a lot of the other Final Fantasies do. Like that's kind of how 7 is. You know what I mean? It's like you can equip these materia to the characters to form them into anything that you want, and that's kind of beautiful in its own sense. They have like base stats and everything like that. In this game, I don't even think that that's even that big of a deal, but it's almost like you have 2 sides, and in one Final Fantasy you have like the set jobs, and I think of like Final Fantasy 1, 3, 9, and then you have the other side where it's like the characters can kind of be whatever, which is like started in 2. I think that's kind of what I
think like it's not the exact same thing, but I think 2 most reminds me of how 8 works in a sense, because of the like I guess because of the way you have to grind stuff out, but you could also become really. I mean, in 8, it's more pronounced that you can just break the game in half, but it's like sort of a similar sentiment, you know, like just a weird, unconventional leveling system.
Yeah. Other than that, I can't really think of anything like gameplay things that this kind of has that are in other Final Fantasies. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you've played 3 and 4. Do you think anything carries over?
No.
No, right?
Because 3 started the job system, obviously, and then 4 is kind of like you just get set jobs, basically. Like, I guess like if you couldn't pick in 1, or I guess like in 6, I haven't played 6, but I think 4 and 6 work the same. So
6, you have Magicite, which is like materia, but a little less fleshed out.
There's not a lot of freedom in 4, to be honest.
Makes sense then. So it's okay. How about you, Rock and I? Do you think anything kind of carries over, or
not? I mean, I think this was one of their like, all right, we've gotten a little bit of feedback on this. Didn't really work.
Yeah, makes sense.
So we're gonna abandon this and try something else. Try and go back to more Final Fantasy 1-ish. Change it up.
It's kind of ironic though, because 3 was like, I mean, I guess it wasn't a mega departure because it's similar to 1, but like, it's just funny that they were like, I guess we'll just do this after 2. So that clearly didn't work out so well.
Yep. Give the fans what they want right now, and
just
work on making it
3 has
like
3 has like more story elements, right? I haven't played 3 yet.
I've only started.
I would say actually 2 has a more involved plot, honestly, but it's more 3 is more involved than like 1. You know, like there's stuff actually happening.
Okay. So moving on, then I guess we can talk about the story and its characters. I think that for the time, this was probably mind-blowing for a lot of people. To have a story of this caliber in a game at all must have been crazy on the NES in 1980, whenever it released. Definitely more so than Final Fantasy 1. Like, it's really impressive what they did. But the story itself, I think the outline of the story is fine, but I think the characters within it are so not memorable and blank slate that it kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
There are a few points in the story that I really remember. And they're more so character moments, and it's when it's like the whole beaver thing, which is kind of just like an offshoot comedy, whatever thing that happens in the plot. There is the time that Princess Hilda is, tries to fuck you, essentially, but it's not her. And
this very bizarre scene with the fake Princess Hilda.
Yeah. Especially
So...
because I thought that, like, I didn't know what they were doing. I was like, Princess Hilda was actually, like, bad the whole time or something. Because, like, before that happens, like, before you go, she sends you to do whatever. Or, no, it's when the king dies. You talk to her, and she's like, heh. And I was like, that's a really weird reaction to have to your... Like, are you trying to take over and, like whatever? I didn't get it. I didn't know yet.
Are we being used?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, that was quite the plot twist. That's kind of like what I was thinking. And then, like, no, nothing like that happened.
Yeah.
You go back and she's like, oh, I want to talk to you. Come here. And then just
find out she's a giant snake lady.
Yeah. So there was that. And then the stuff with Leon, I mean, it was really obvious to me. I don't know about you guys.
I mean, I knew Leon was the Black Knight, but that's like, okay. Leon's my least favorite part of the story because I was kind of digging the Black Knight as like a rival. He's a little generic, but I was like, it's kind of cool. It's like the coolest thing happening in this story. So I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool, and I'm like excited to see how that wraps up. And you don't even fight him. He's just like, it's like the biggest buzzkill ever, and then Leon's useless and doesn't say anything, and I'm like, oh my lord, like, how do you set up something that cool and just waste it?
I think what you mentioned, the fight against him.
Yeah.
Where you just walk up to him and he's like, "Yeah, I'm the king now," and then the real king kind of comes back in his demonic form, and it's like, "All right, I guess I'm not. I'm gonna help you guys because I got screwed over." It's
Also,
I don't know.
Speaking of that, the Emperor himself was kind of a pushover. Like the first time you fight him, you just destroy him. Yeah, I mean the clues were there, but I thought we were still going to be able to fight the Black Knight because the first time we see him, it's in that underground passageway or whatever, and we get to the end of it, and he's like, "I won't blah." I don't even know what he says, but he's like, "I'll never let the rebels blah blah blah. You stand no chance." And I was like, "So we're gonna fight?" And then that never happened. So it like I kind of looked deep into it then, and I was like, "Why wouldn't he just like kill us if he's that strong?" Either he's posing, or this is a character that actually has some sort of connection with the main cast, and, you know, that's kind of like what I was thinking. But then, obviously, when Maria? What's her name?
Yeah.
Maria is like, "Oh, I know that voice." It's like, okay. Well, this is Leon. And you know what, to be honest with you, because that was like the only thing that was really going on with the story, it still like it made me keep going. It's like, okay, let's see what happens. But like you said, the fact that we don't fight him at all kind of sucks.
It's just like a buzzkill. It's like,
yeah.
And that's kind of like my problem with the two story as a whole is it builds a lot, maybe not a lot, but it builds a lot of cool things. And no, they just kind of fizzle out. It's like the bell curve kind of feels like this with the game, and it's like I don't know, everything. Like I didn't care particularly about too many people. I guess I like Minwoo kind of.
Yeah, he stands out. He was like the first one that you get who's like super strong and self-sacrificial, and he's
I didn't
very
really care
stoic.
about the main characters at all. So it's kind of like, okay, I guess we'll beat the Empire. Go to hell.
Yeah.
What can you even say that like stands out for the main characters? It's like Farion is weak to like girls, I guess.
Yeah,
you know, like that's the only thing that I can really think of that, and like stoic, I guess.
Well, that's because that's like
Guys
the
speak
only...
beaver. There you go.
Yeah, those are like guys speaking to beavers. Firion getting, you know, fake Hilded.
Yeah.
Like those are like the cutest moments that they have, and the only moments that I think they have, really.
Yeah. And Maria is like the typical, like almost like falling into like the stereotype that I'm super caring and empathic about everything. And I was like, okay, you know, it is what it is for its time. It just yeah.
I'm sure it was much more impressive back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple storylines that I kind of liked. I'm forgetting his name, but the Dragoon that you find in Leviathan.
Ooh, you know what?
Finding out that
cool.
he is the dad of the kid and the mother that you met earlier in the game.
Yeah, that was cool.
Was pretty nice, and then he does die eventually.
Of course.
And then talking to them again, you kind of just like bringing them that bad news gives them a little bit of closure finally.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one of the better storylines in the game.
Yeah, you know what? The Dragoon, I forgot about it, but that was actually, you know, probably out of all the deaths, that one was pretty good. Like, because it had a lot of build up and there was some cool stories going on with him.
Yep.
I liked him.
I did
I
like.
also like Dragoons.
Yeah. And Dragoon started in this game, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah.
Picard Highwind was his name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's also where the Highwind name started, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, which is, you know, notable for Dragoons and people who have the airships and stuff like that in Final Fantasy. I also liked the dragon in general, like just the baby that, you know, hatches when you save the last I don't know, that was cute to me, you know.
Yeah. Flying into a cyclone.
Yeah.
All cool and stuff.
Yeah, you save the last dragon possible, and then he helps you get into the cyclone. It was cool to have that come back. Can we talk about the fact that there's a full town inside of a Leviathan stomach?
I've been here for 10 years.
Yeah. It's like, oh my god, like what do you eat down here? Like just the scraps that Leviathan eats? How have you built tables and chairs and whatever else down here?
I mean, he probably eats lots of things. Chips.
Yeah, I guess.
Fish.
Yeah.
Plenty for any town to need.
Yeah. Man. I don't know. I found it
that
really
one weirded
funny.
me out a little bit.
I found that really funny that there was just a town inside the Leviathan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess there's not much else to say about the story. Like,
Well, it's like kind of disappointing too, because when it started, because I really like my stories and my RPGs. You know, super hot take, I know, but
yeah, it's not like people
like,
play the RPGs for
I guess,
the story.
Coming off of one, which I did enjoy, it was kind of like, you know, you expect one to not have much going on there, and it didn't really. So then I go into two, and it's like starting out, and it's like you get obliterated by like Dark Knights or whatever, and like you're kind of like, oh, this is like intriguing. And for like an hour or two, I was pretty into it. I was like, oh, this could go some places, and it just kind of doesn't.
Yeah,
it's really disappointing, honestly.
I think what doesn't help is like how slow the pacing is because of the amount of random encounters and stuff that you get into. It's like each event is so segmented from each other that it's like you almost forget the pieces of the story as you're going through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're stuck like in the tower to get Ultima for like what feels like 5 hours, and then you finally get it, and you're like, "What was happening? Why was I like?
Why
what was going on
again?"
Exactly. So I really think that hurts the story pacing a lot.
And I mean, I think it was mentioned earlier, but like the fact that most of the quests just fizzle out to nothing.
Yeah.
Like Ultima wasn't that powerful.
Yeah.
And like.
And it makes you think, like, did Minwoo have to? Was it Minwoo?
He used
did he have to sacrifice himself?
Minwoo, like, did he have to die? Was this really necessary? Like,
yeah.
I didn't even use Ultima on the Emperor. Like,
your death was in vain, Minwoo. I'm sorry, but that spell is useless. Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm in the same boat as you, King, where it's like I came fresh off of playing Final Fantasy 1 as well, so that game not really having any story, that like I was latching on to anything that this game like gave to me.
Yeah.
Like kept me intrigued, and yeah. So it is what it is. Good for its time. Is what it is now. And then to continue on with some of the bonus stuff in the podcast, we can talk about some of the artwork and the music of the game, I guess.
I really, at least for the Pixel remaster, I was really digging the soundtrack overall. I was really into it.
They did a really good job remastering a lot of the songs.
Yeah. I have the original soundtrack playing now, and even that I really like. When I think about just the composition itself, it's really good. I think my favorite
Pandemonium's
song...
definitely my favorite track.
Yeah, I was gonna say Pandemonium is.
Yeah, Pandemonium is real good.
Agreed.
Hated the dungeon, but yeah,
yeah.
At least that music was playing.
Yeah, that's one thing. It's like, and I was talking to you about this before, King. Was just like if I could just like not get into random encounters during that dungeon, just take everything in and enjoy the atmosphere, because it has legitimately cool atmosphere, like the pink crystals everywhere and everything else, and the awesome music. It's like, I don't want it to be interrupted. I don't.
Yeah.
Every 2 seconds it is. It's like, come on, just let me have this, man. This is like the this is like the most into a dungeon I've been. The artwork in the Pixel remasters, I think, is I'm kind of mixed on it, because the art style in general is closer to what the originals are supposed to be, which is cool. But here and there, I'll see something that just seems like off. I don't know what it is. Like with the actual character sprites themselves, I don't think I'm like too big of a fan of.
Yeah. I think they're like comparing them. I think they're just like weird, especially because like these are NES games, I guess, so they're a little more like, I didn't notice it as much. But when you compare it, especially to the SNES games, you can tell that the sprite quality is just weirdly low quality. Like, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah. Something about them like really stands out to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get where you're coming from, because at times I felt like they were just character sprites that were like floating on top of just like a pasted background at times.
Yeah.
Instead of like just standing on the ground with like an epic background in it. So.
Yeah, but I think where the pixel remasters shine is not in the character sprites themselves or the enemy sprites. I think it's in everything else. I think it's in the backgrounds, the water.
The attack animations are really cool.
Yeah, the attack animations are really neat. That's the kind of stuff where it's like I'm testing out the spells and leveling them up sometimes just to see what they look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's almost more entertaining to me than what results I'm going to get in the battle itself, because usually the most effective is to just swing my sword. But hey, when I had a fire sword and it did fire, like in Final Fantasy 1 and stuff, I found that cool.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And
Ultima might have sucked, but I like its animations were cool once you got it up there.
Yeah.
It looked pretty. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't really have much to say. I do like the battle theme a lot. Oh,
Yeah.
you know one thing that I forgot to mention in the gameplay part before that really pissed me off, like early in the game, just so I don't forget about it, was that one of the first dungeons that you go into, the one with those turtles, where the final boss is one of those turtles.
Yeah.
This is another thing that, like, I mean, we kind of already went into it with the skill system, but there are certain enemies that just have such high resistances to the certain skills, to the point where I was forced to use, like, a sword against the turtles, which I'm pretty sure they're super strong against, because I didn't have anything else. And because of that, and you run out of magic with no magic restore items, because it's earlier in the game. So I just had to sit there for, like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes straight trying to use the sword against the turtle. So that's just another one of those things where it's like, because the skill system wasn't really thought of in depth, in detail, stuff like that is going to happen pretty often to players.
I feel like a similar thing happened to me. Maybe not as severe, but I remember that turtle being a pain in the ass. So I feel like something similar happened.
Yeah.
There was something that helped me a lot that I noticed, and it's not something the game tells you, but if you go into the item menu, you can change equipment on the fly.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice that until about, like, halfway through the game. And I was like, wow, I really wish I had known about this mechanic early on, because it certainly would have helped.
Yeah, I didn't know you could do that until the last boss. Because I'm pretty sure it's because you told me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I told you that at that point.
And it doesn't even take a turn. It just...
Yep. It just lets you do it.
Go in there.
Yeah, I'm
going to
be honest with you. I don't think I've learned until this moment you could do that. So that's... did not know that.
I feel like that's a pretty important thing that the game should have either told you or showed you.
Because it means you can, like, experiment more against those enemies that you only had that one option against in those moments. So it's like the game put it there, I guess, but you didn't necessarily... Even, like, in the early game, you didn't really have that much to, like, test out, but, like, later on, yeah, that would definitely be... It would be useful no matter what. And it just sucks that, like, I guess I just really didn't know. And, yeah, so there's that. That's cool. Anyway... moving on, we were talking about artwork and music. The PSP or GBA versions of this game, I think I like the sprite work of those more in certain aspects, like when it comes to the character sprites, because as much as these ones represent the NES versions of them, the GBA version, if you know anything about GBA, you'll know that a lot of the artwork is similar to the Super Nintendo, so they kind of they made like Super Nintendo versions of the sprites for the characters and stuff, and I think that those look really cool. But I think we all played the Pixel Remaster for this, so
yeah.
Yep.
My next topic is, how does this game carry the spirit of Final Fantasy? So I'll let someone else start off with this one.
That's honestly a really hard question, because they changed so much from the first one, and it's so different from the rest of them. I think the spirit is honestly in the story, in the character elements, in the world itself. Like, the fact that there are chocobos in there, the fact that, like, they started Dragoons here.
Yeah.
They like, as much as we want to like hate on this game, they did add a lot of things that did become mainstays for later games.
I guess something you might not initially think of, but what I think of immediately is that it's not a direct sequel, you know? Like, it's the game that immediately established this would be like an anthology-ish series, or like, I don't know what you call Final Fantasy. It's like the sequels won't take place in the same, you know what I mean? Like, and this technically started that trend, you know? Because they could have gone a completely different direction with it.
Didn't even think of that. That's a good point. Yeah, I think that that's a really good one. Because when I think about the spirit of Final Fantasy, and I said this in the Final Fantasy 1 podcast, it's like 4 people going on a quest, or like a party of people who shouldn't really, or just kind of like get together under the circumstances and go on a quest. And that quest can involve many things. Final Fantasy will have its things that are similar to other games like Chocobos and whatever, which this game started. It's SIDS, Highwind, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, it's usually just these party of people who get together and go on an adventure. This game, it didn't quite feel like that, because the party knows each other from the start, and I don't know. So I don't think it carries it in that way, but more so in the trends that it starts, like we were talking about. Chocobo theme started here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty. Oh, and just as I say that, it starts playing on Spotify as well.
Woo!
Nice.
Is the game worth playing today?
I'm gonna just flat out say it. No. No.
I mean, like,
skip this one entirely.
it depends on your tolerance for bullshit, I would say, because, like, despite how negative I've been, I wouldn't even say I hate it. Like, it's just kind of a game I probably personally wouldn't replay readily. But it's also, like, especially if you play the Pixel Remaster, it's not super long, you know? It's like, if your tolerance for bullshit is high, then I think you could get through it, you know? But it's kind of like morbid curiosity at this point is the strongest recommendation I can give, because it's not like a particularly great experience.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, it has the best story out of the first 3, so it's got that going for it.
That is, you know what? Yeah.
Like, reasons to play it are, if you're really, really curious, if you have the time, and you're going through to play the whole series anyway.
Yeah.
And obviously you're not going to want to skip it, but I can't, like, actually recommend it in any way. Like, I can't be like,
as a standalone game without the rest, like, without playing through the rest of the series, this is just one. No, you play this one last. This is like one of the worst in the series, in my opinion. And you don't just go out and pick up Final Fantasy 2 for Final Fantasy 2.
Yeah, I like genuinely don't think it's like a good game. You know what? Like, this is probably the worst gaming experience I've had. That wasn't like some broken Wii familyware
shovelware
game. Shovelware game. Like
I think the only reason I'm not so harsh on it is because there were several hours at the beginning where I was enjoying myself quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like just got worse over time, sort of deal.
Yeah.
I mean, for the first 4 or 5 hours, it was fine, but the rest of the game just soured so much.
Yeah, I don't know, like, but even then, it's like the first couple hours, like, I was kind of intrigued, but I wasn't like, this is amazing or anything like that. It was just like, this is kind of, a relief from the fact that it has a story, unlike Final Fantasy 1. It's just like different, and unfortunately, the ways that it's different are never like expanded upon in a great way, and like a fleshed out way to make me really enjoy it. And then everything else about the game is just insanely ridiculous and asinine that I really can't do it. If you want to play it, you play it for the moments. I do recommend the Pixel Remaster, because if you're playing this game without a map, especially the dungeon design, it's going to be hell. not having a speed up function for the battles is also not going to be very fun for you. That's really all I can say about it.
I think it says a lot when the best way to play it is the Pixel Remaster, and none of us really had all that much fun with it.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's like, I don't want to be this hard. Like, I always want to see like the positive view of like the game and stuff like that, and like tell them, yeah, sure, it's worth playing, but I really just can't.
Sometimes you just can't. Sometimes the game is just that bad, and in this case, it's that bad.
Yeah.
Avoid it if you're not into Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. And then this is definitely the shortest podcast so far, because there's just like not as much to say on it as far as like development and everything else goes on it. I really wish I had more to say on it, but like it is what it is, I guess. So I guess let's do some closing statements and let people know where they can find you. Rakanai, you can go first.
All right. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Rakanai, spelled as, I don't know. Do you have our names up on the screen?
I have it.
I can't
I'll
see it.
have all the names on the screen. I'll have all the descriptions and all the platforms
Perfect.
that it comes out on, you know.
All right. So yeah, you can also find me at Rakanai_ on Twitter. That's usually where I am.
All right.
Well, I'm King K at most places, except I'm like Twitter's the king of King K. I think my Twitch also. It's just annoying, but
Yeah.
that's how it is. On YouTube, I'm King K. You can find most of my links on there anyway. So.
And closing statements on the game. For
It tried its heart out. Didn't really work, but it happens.
Flaming pile of shit. I don't want to see it again.
Okay, yeah. I'll give my
Three's the
closing
best
statements.
one.
3 is the best one out of the 3. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I will
looking
say
forward to 3. But I'm taking a small break because I'm focusing on my scripts right now anyway, and I just need a break from like the Final Fantasy stuff
Yeah.
after playing 2. It's like I can't muster the strength to go on. I have to wait. But yeah, I mean, you can find me Juice_Polydot on every platform. This will be up on YouTube under the Juicecast channel and also on Spotify and blah, blah, blah. You can check out all the other episodes we've done on the Sonic series, Final Fantasy 1, DDLC, and more to come. Next time we'll be doing it will be Final Fantasy 3. Not quite sure when that's going to be yet, but I'll definitely keep you guys updated if you follow on the social platforms. And as far as my closing statements on the game, I would have to say that it is a video game. That's all I got.
Something that we played.
Yeah, it sure
Yeah.
is. So thank you guys for coming on today, and if you are watching this on YouTube, then don't forget to subscribe or follow the channel on Spotify. And with all that being said, thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you next time.
Thank you for having us.
See it.